Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you. Today in this video, I'm going to talk to you about this wonderful book that I read, and I actually read it 2 times already. And the name of the book is called How to Win Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. And there are 6 principles in life that you must understand as a leader in order for you to lead your team and to get better results. So stay tuned because I'm going to share this with you. Okay, so principle number 1. This is the main principle that Dale Carnegie talks about. And if I may share before I get into this principle, this book was published back in 1936. Dale Carnegie was born in 1888. So that just goes to show you the amount of time that this book has been out into the world for so many years. This man came into the world over 100 years ago, and he published this book in 1936. The book, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence Others. And it's a book that has been recommended, that a lot of big corporations, a lot of businesses actually recommends their people to read in order for them to get better results, to be a better salesperson, to be a better leader, to be a better manager, to be a better father for that matter, because these principles are not just for business, they are for your everyday life, and I'm going to get into them. So with that being said, principle number 1. Okay, so principle number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Now you might say, what does that mean? Well, a lot of the times you hear it, but we don't practice it. There's really no all the way around it, my friends. If we want to make friends, you need to become genuinely interested in the other person. A lot of the times, and I have done this in the past, so I can relate to this a lot. I wouldn't be telling you all of this if I didn't experience it. And up to this day, I still do it. I still find myself struggling with this principle. Not as much as I used to, because now I'm aware. Now I know that I must pivot, that I need to shift when I find myself doing that. But this principle, when you're making friends, when you meet somebody for the first time, as a leader, it's your job to get to know that person at a different level. It's your job to know what the other person like, what the other person's interests are, what the person's name is. What do they like? Do they have kids? Are they married? Are they single? Are they from the state? Are they from a different country? So it is very, very important, if you want to make the connection the very first time that you meet this person, and even after you meet them, it is never too late to make that shift and to pivot, to become very, very interested in that person. But here's the tricky part. You have to do it very genuinely. You cannot just ask the questions because it has happened to me. I have experienced it, and I'm sure most of you can relate to this. When someone is asking you a question, whether that is about your kids, your family, and the next thing you know, you're answering the question, and then this other person is over here typing, right? They become very distracted. They're not even following you with what you're saying. They're asking you the question just simply to ask the question. So the key thing here is to be genuinely, that you care, that you come from the heart, that you care about the other person. How is that person doing? What does that person like? So principle number 1 is very huge, and it sets the foundation in order for you to become someone of an influence and to make friends. So become genuinely interested in other people is very, very huge when you are looking to apply these principles to your own personal life or to your business as well. Okay, so principle number 2. Principle number 2 is very simple, and it's just one word: smile. That is it. Smile. There's really nothing else contagious other than coronavirus, right? But there's really nothing else, and that was a joke, by the way, but there's really nothing more contagious in this world than a smile. When you're talking to somebody, smiling goes a long way. If I'm talking to you and then I'm listening to you and I'm becoming very interested in what you have to say, I'm putting a smile on your face. I'm talking to you with a smile. It becomes contagious. Your brain feels happy because you're smiling, and you're smiling. Your brain is happy because you're smiling. You understand? So it's a psychology that you need to understand when you are out there making friends. And really, if you want to have that emotional connection with that individual, with that person, very, very important that you never forget about smile. Because how many times have you had someone, that is talking to you and they just have a straight face and there's no emotion? Is that someone that, and maybe you do, but is that someone that, maybe you can connect with at the moment? Maybe someone that, you might want to go up to again and ask them another question. Someone that is intimidated and then just having a straight face, no emotion, there's no connection. So smiling, it almost brings that barrier down lower so that you can connect with that individual. Come from a place of caring. That's why principle number 1, I said that it was the foundation of becoming genuinely interested in other people. And you do that by smiling, by becoming genuinely interested in them. You smile, you kick up the hormones in the brain, the other person becomes contagious. Next thing you know, that other person is smiling. The whole room is smiling. If I'm giving a speech to my group, if I'm giving a speech to my team on how we're supposed to do things, how we need to do things, I'm smiling. I can assure you that there's going to be some connections, some influence that I'm going to have with those individuals that I'm leading as well. So principle number 2, very simple yet very complicated for most people, which is smiling. All right, principle number 3. This principle is very, very, very important. So this principle is remembering that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. If I don't know you, then I ask your name, and then you say your name is Alex, your name is Mary, I'm calling you by that name. I do that because I want you to feel important. I do that because I care. I do that because I wanna have that connection. I want you to know that I remember your name, that I'm talking to you at a personal level so that I can connect with you. And so that person's name is very, very, very important when you are looking to make friends out there. If you meet a person today and then you go back to them a week later, Dale Carnegie had a process of remembering names. But if you go out to that person a week later and then you call her, hey Alex, how are you? Hey Mary, how you doing today? That person is gonna think at some point, maybe not at that moment, maybe later in the day, or maybe when nobody's really listening to her or him, that person's gonna remember that you call that person by their name. So principle number 3, there's really nothing else more important, and it's the sweetest sound in any language when you call that person by their first name, their last name. It just takes it to another level. Now you're interested in them. Now you're smiling. You're kicking up the hormones, and you're calling that person by their name. Very, very important that you remember this principle number 3, to always, always, always call that person by the first name. Principle number 4, this is a nice one. This is a great one because I used to struggle with this one. I still struggle up until this day, but now I know that I'm aware of it. But this is where most people struggle at times in their lives. And this is to be a good listener and encourage others to talk about themselves. So being a good listener means that you're speaking to me, I'm listening to you, but I'm really listening with the intent to listen. I'm curious to know what you have to say. I'm curious to know what you're going to say next. I'm curious to know where this conversation is heading. I cannot wait until you finish the conversation to see how the story is going to end. So it's becoming very, very interested in what the other person has to say. Because a lot of the times, and I've done this myself, and it has happened to me too, where I'm talking and then another person is talking to me as well. And then they suddenly, boom, they interrupt what I have to say. So it just throws me off. And then therefore, for me, it doesn't excite me. I'm not interested in talking to that person anymore. I don't want to talk to that person anymore because I'm pouring my heart. I'm pouring what I have to say. And then that person is interrupting what I have to say. It's just a turnoff. It's a major, major turnoff when you're leading a team, when you're leading a team of people. So listening with the intent to listen, not with the intent to respond, will get you a long way, because now you became very interested in that person, and you did that with the heart. You did that very genuinely. You're calling that person by their name. Now you're listening to what they have to say. this is going somewhere. That other person saying, man, I like this conversation. I have not had a conversation in a long time with anybody other than this person, because this person cares about what I have to say. So you'll be surprised. It is I could say that it's very easy to say, but it's not very easy to get it done. You have to practice it over and over and over and over again until you become good at it. How many times do you see Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Stephen Curry, right, going up there and then perform in front of everybody, right? Do you think that they just get out there and then they just start shooting the basket and then they make the baskets, like, wow, he's so good? No, they put in the work when nobody's watching, when nobody's looking at them. They wake up early, whatever the routine looks like, they're putting in the work in private. So therefore the result shows in public. Same thing over here, my friends. When you put in the work, when you really start listening, when you really start reading your books, something that is gonna get you, and I'm not talking about a book it's a fiction book. I'm talking about a self-development book. Something like How to Win Friends and Influence Others. You're training yourself. You're training your brain. You're putting in the work in the private, and it's gonna show in the public. How is that gonna show? Well, in this case, it's gonna show by you listening with the intent to listen to the other person. They're gonna feel so comfortable. They're gonna want to talk to you. Next time there's a problem in the family, next time there's a problem with a fellow coworker, with a partner, they know that you are the one that has the ears to listen. You have all the wisdom. So at that point, you're pretty much unstoppable, because you are way ahead of you. You're 10, 15 steps ahead of everybody else when it comes to connecting with people and doing so very emotionally and very genuinely. So this principle number 4, it's very, very important, which is be a good listener and encouraging others to talk about themselves as well. Okay, so principle number 5. This is a principle that you as a leader need to develop a lot, because a lot of the times, and I'm talking about not just in your industry, I'm talking as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a sister, as a son, as a mother, you need to develop this, because once you develop this, you open up everything else that we just talked about, the principle 1 through 4. When you talk, principle number 5, when you talk in terms of the other person's interests. This principle allows you to become very interested in the other person, what they have to say, what are they up to, what are they all about, what do they like? Do they like sports? Do they like to go out once they get done with work? Do they like to go read? What is their routine? You getting to know that person at a different level. This is about getting to know this person at a personal level, so that you can connect and then have some influence in them. But how to win them is by you becoming very, very interested in what they like, in their own interests. You know what your interests are, and a lot of the times we talk in terms of being interesting ourselves rather than talking and being interested in other people. So let me repeat that again. A lot of the times we talk in terms of us being interesting to that person. We say things and we want to sound interesting so that they can hear us. But we often fail to talk in the terms of being interested in what they have to say, what they need to say, what do they like. It is a skill that you need to develop as a leader if you want to have some influence out there in the marketplace, because this is what's going to get you to the next level, and that is talking in terms of the other person's interests. Okay, and finally, principle number 6. This principle is none other than making the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Because as we already talked about, principle number 1, you become genuinely interested in this other person. Principle number 2, you're smiling, you're being contagious, you're giving them all of your attention. Principle number 3, you are calling that person by their name. Principle number 4, you're listening with the intent to listen. Principle number 5, you're talking in their own terms. Now this is like the cherry on top. You're making that other person feel important. And how do you do that? You do that by applying all of the principles that we just talked about. By you making them feel important, like I said, it's going to open up the path for this person to come up to you for wisdom, for this person to come to you for advice, for this person to come to you when they need to say something, when they want to release, when they want to vent, right? And obviously this is where you need to draw the line of when it comes to gossiping, because that is a whole different subject that we don't discuss in this book. But gossiping, talking about other people's when they're not present, that is a line that you're going to have to really develop, and you're really going to have to be conscious of it, because there's really nothing else disrespectful than when you talk about the other person when the other person is not present, when they are absent, and when they cannot defend themselves. So this is one of the habits that we learned during a book that I read that's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I have a video where I talk about some of those habits, so you can check it out. But basically what the book says is that you are respectful to the person that is absent. You don't talk about that other person. There's a quote by Tupac that he said a long time ago. Don't talk about other people at the table, because the minute you get up from that table, you're next. You're the next subject that those people are going to talk about. So I love that quote from Tupac Shakur, one of the greatest rappers out here in California. But he said that quote, and it's true. It is true. When you're not present, if you are talking about somebody else and that person is not there, you better believe that they're going to be doing the same thing when you're not there. They're going to be talking about you. So very important that you draw that line when this person come and talk to you. They look for wisdom. This is about creating those principles, creating those friends, and then you're making this person feel important by applying all of the 6 principles. Very, very huge. Very, very interesting. And this is what's going to get you to the leadership role. This is what's going to get you excel in your career and to the next level. If you're just a employee seeking to move up to a leadership role, applying these principles and reading this book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie, is going to get you a long way. There's a lot that you can learn from this book. I'm telling you, this is the second time I read it. And the second time that I read it, I learned more actually than I actually did the first time, because there were some things that I did not get the first time that I missed it. When I read it the second time, it clicked, it sunk in me. And so therefore, I was able to have those breakthroughs. All right, so lesson 1 that I learned. Lesson 1, you cannot win an argument. In this book, Dale Carnegie talks about not having an argument. When you're disagreeing with somebody else, the best thing to do is to put yourself in their shoes, right? To put yourself in their position. Why is it that they're complaining about that? Why is it that they're saying that the product doesn't look the same? Why is it that they're telling you all these things for a reason? A lot of the times we tend to just look at it from our own angle, and we tell them, no, that product looks fine. That looks great. This is the way it's supposed to be. But this person is looking at it from a different perspective. They're seeing something that we do not. Vice versa. We're seeing something that we do not. So arguing with that person is not going to get you anywhere. Rather than that is understanding that even if you win the argument, you're really not winning it. Why? Because you did not seek to understand that other person. You did not influence that other person to change their mind. So even though you won the argument, or you lost the argument for that matter, you're not going to change your mind because that other person won the argument. Just what that person did was just win it. You're still at the same mentality. You still have the same thinking. You still have something to say. You just did not win the argument. So that's why he focuses on not creating an argument, not having an argument when you're talking to other people. Rather than that, it's just asking questions. Why did that happen? Okay, tell me a little bit more. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, please? Tell me what's the issue. When you do that, you're influencing that other person. You're basically are letting their guard down. It's almost like you have a boxer, right? You have a boxer, and when they're getting ready to fight, they got to put their hands up, right? Same thing over here. It's just you're allowing that person to let the guard down a little bit. You're making that person relax. Then you're making them feel comfortable. That is okay. They can talk to you. Got it. Understand. I understand how you feel. I understand that this product is not at the level that you want. What can we do to make it better? You'll be surprised how many times the person is just making an argument that is really not so much of an argument. It's more like a point of view. But by you doing so, you can have a lot of influence. And this is where the second part is. The first part, the principle 1 through 6 is how to win friends. How to win friends. The second part is how to influence others. Well, you're not going to create an argument. Okay, so lesson two that I got as well is I never tell a person that they're wrong. Never tell a person that they're wrong when they're giving you their own point of view. When they're giving you something that they have to say, don't say, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. Rather than saying that, the best way that I found out for me personally to connect with that person is, okay, got it. Well, check this out. I'm going to say a thing or two, and then in the process, I'm going to see if I can help you change your mind. But telling that other person that is wrong is only going to ignite the argument. It's really not going to get you anywhere. And so what you do with that is you ask questions. When you ask questions, right, it just opens up the conversation. Again, it's almost like you need to, when you don't know how to dance, you go to a place where they teach you how to dance. There's a teacher there that shows you how to dance, right? You go there because this person is an expert. They know how to dance. You don't. So in this case, the associate, the employee comes up to you as a leader. It's your job to lead them. So how do you do that? By applying all of the principles that we talked about, 1 through 6. And that is, you are going to teach them how to dance in the conversation, right? You're going to become very interested in them. You're not going to argue with them. You're going to ask them questions. You're going to seek to understand why they feel the way that they feel. You're going to call that person by their name. You're going to listen with the intent to listen. You're going to make that person feel important. And when you talk in terms of interest, you're going to talk about in the other person's interest. So my friends, if you are able to become more aware, if you are able to get something out of this video, is that you don't create an argument. And even if there's an argument and you think you won, you did not really win it because you did not make that other person change their mind. And this is what the whole concept of this book is all about, is how can I influence others? How can I win your friendship? Well, I do that by applying principle 1 through 6. How do I influence others? Well, I know that I'm not supposed to. I know that I cannot argue with you, because if I argue, it's almost like a win-lose. I win, you lose. I lose, you win. Vice versa. How can I create a win-win? This is how we influence each other. We ask questions. Tell me a little bit more about that. Can you elaborate on what you have to say? We don't tell the other person that they're wrong. Rather than that, we ask questions. We seek to understand that person. And so, my friends, this is something that I value. That, again, the principles of this book are great. This book was written, like I said, back in 1936. It was published back in 1936. What we learn from it is that 84 years later, the principles are still the same. And now we're in an era now where technology dominates, right? What happened in 2020 when COVID hit? Business shut down. A lot of businesses, a lot of offices, they were not operating from there. Basically, the entire world shut down. We were told to go home, to stay home. A lot of businesses that needed to operate, they were doing so from home. A lot of them became disconnected, very disconnected to the world. Now that they're out there in the world, a lot of them are suffering now from how do we connect with others? How do we connect? How do I portray? How do I give value to my team? How do I connect in a level where I can have some influence, and then therefore I can win some friends as well? Okay, so with that being said, these are the 6 principles that I got from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others. So very, very, very good book. I highly, highly encourage you that you read it, that you put your hands on it. You can get it through Audible, or you can get a hard copy of it, however you want to do it. But the man, Dale Carnegie, was a man of influence, and he had a lot of influence in the world that book still lives on today. So good principles that you can get from this book. With that being said, thank you so much. I hope that you got some value out of it. Please let me know how I can assist you. Any questions that you have, please throw them out in the chat box. And then please feel free to follow on social media. We got the link for Facebook down here, and then Instagram as well, Twitter. And with that said, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You will help us out with the algorithm. In the process, help us reach out more people that are looking to get some value out of this book as well. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.